Hey, Gunjan. Hi, Manisha. Hi, Rutvik.
Hello.
Great. Thank you for joining in. And Manisha, if you could say something about you, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm from Faridabad. I'm teaching in a school called as Delhi Scholars International School. I'm a TGT biology and I have experience of 9+ years in CBSE board.
Super. Okay, Manisha. All right. And what all grades are you teaching?
I'm teaching 9th and 10th grade.
Perfect. All right, lovely. So portfolios right up your
Yeah.
right up your activity system.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Rutvik, hi.
Hello.
Hi. Rutvik, could you tell us a little about you?
Yes, I have been working involved in education on and off. I worked in an organization called Tree Foundation. Tree stands for Transformation Through Research, Education, and Empowerment.
Lovely.
This is something we started in 2016 and were involved in educational projects in Meghalaya, Sikkim, and Chhattisgarh.
Oh, very interesting.
Yes, so Gunjan had connected with me in the morning.
Right.
I'm just checking the session.
Super. All right. Lovely. Thank you for joining us. All right. We start for the day. Gunjan, if we look at our couple of questions that might come your way, Manisha and Rutvik, once we start the screen.
So that they can give me a minute.
Sure.
Yeah, we are on.
All right. Perfect. So we could go into presentation mode. All right. So, I mean, we've all had training programs before and we've all been part of multiple training programs before. Anything different about the slide right now? Anything that comes to your mind is being different about the slide right now? No, nothing. Manisha, anything that comes to mind? Rutvik, anything that comes to mind about the?
It's a like basic introduction about you.
Agreed. And what else? What is different about it? Because I could have done it some other way as well, right? What's the whole point of smaller those buttons over there and activities?
I can use those icons and I can directly go to the certain links or the pictures and all.
Correct. Perfect. All right. So you have enough information about me with one screen that is visible to you right now, as in a basic element of it, right? And while we are going to talk about portfolios as an assessment tool today, what we're also looking at is how does it become more digitally? There's a slight shift that we would like to bring into the digital aspect of it, simply because it's just easier to manage, while we will cover the basics of everything else. Great. Yes, truly said. Yes, Manisha, the icons indicate the pages that you could have gone to for further information and you would have known more about the particular project. So what we try to do is give us a screen which works with me. So work with me while we go ahead on this. And I think that's the key element, right? And we begin for the next activity system that we're going to do right now. So perfect. On my left, if when I look at the screen right now, it's through my first grade year, is something that we've all done as teachers at some point of time. We've built portfolios physically. They've been interesting, they've been colorful, they've been informative, and they've also been collected over time. They've been collected over just a week. They have been done exclusively by one child. They've been done by multiple children. They have been maybe a multi-level, multi-grade project. So there's different elements to the portfolios that we have done until now. Portfolio, in essence, also is something that we are going to take a look at. But before we go into what the definitions and all of that are, which we can really do quickly, let's just quickly look at the flow. The introduction is done. We're going to examine portfolio as an assessment tool, and that's going to take the bulk of the session until 6 p.m. We build portfolios, and how do we build portfolios with our students? And most importantly, the last leg is going to be how we're going to assess portfolios. So two things, objectives may we create and we use portfolios as assessment. Super. Two things we leave you with, both as a link, and we'll just leave it there. Even on YouTube, we leave it in the notes. We will help you with creation tools and we will help you with links for our rubrics for assessment. So we'll give you a few things to view even much after the session is over and done with. Okay, I don't have a fascination for definitions, but we'll take 30 seconds and we'll do this element over here. And here we say, Student work, yes. If portfolio is student work collected through various sources, 1 up, 2 up, through multiple methods, and 3 over multiple points in time. This is the ideal world when we talk about a portfolio. However, there are multiple versions of this, right? So if you look on the top row there, there's digital and there's tactile. Let's look at tactile first. Usually tactile is a project that we've seen in our experiences, one project that is given as an activity system to be done. Child does the work, child comes with a submission. There is a mix of text. There's usually some artwork, there's usually a learning experience, and many a time there's also a reflection. So typically tactile is there. Is it through multiple methods? Could be. We'll take a look at that. And whether it's multiple points in time, again, we'll take a look at that. So moving ahead from here. All right, interesting part. And let's take it a little slow on this one. Why do we need portfolios and why do they make sense? So for a grade 10 teacher right now, or a grade 9 teacher, let's look at the left as separate right now. One ability that it gives us in terms of concentrated effort is it's very learner-centered. You actually get time to work on what you're going to be giving. How it probably needs to be done is slightly more open-ended, but definitely how it's going to be assessed is going to be a very defined set of parameters that you have. Second, the advantage of a portfolio is going to be the fact that it's very, very easy to do this as a multidisciplinary activity system. Or if you choose to make it very subject-based, that's also a high possibility, right? And I love the last one. It's very authentic as an assessment, right? There's a lot of academic honesty, as we call it, right? You do know whether a child has submitted it, diligently worked on, there is a contribution by the learner. And the fact that it arrives on the higher end of Bloom's taxonomy makes it even better. All right, so it's a combination of things, and then you arrive at synthesis in that context. However, on the right, what are the advantages that we have on, why a portfolio makes sense? It's a very sensible homework. It's a very sensible group work. It allows for a lot of reflective practice, which you're trying to build into both the lesson at task, the lesson that is being learned, or the task that is being given in a multidisciplinary context. So both ways, there's so much learning that happens, and there's so much, therefore it demonstrates a lot of growth within the learner. What has been learned? How many ways are there to present information? Why would it be different? Why is an infographic a lovely way to do a representation? And why can't it be something else? And each child will have his or her own best foot forward in terms of the presentation series that they will choose to do. So on the left, like we said, you have the features of why they're important. On the right, you have the advantages of what makes portfolios a great assessment tool. Moving ahead from there, what we're going to do right now is spend a little time in looking at nice, relevant exemplars, okay, of what makes it. So the links will be available to you even in the chat, even after this is over, it will be available to you. But let's take a look at some of the very notable projects that we have. Allow us a moment to actually go on and click on those links. Right. Okay, very simply put, a quick introduction is available to us. You're also going to note the fact that this learner has been actively building up. She's got a series of activities that she's done, right? There's a 2009, 2010, there's a series of months, and all up on top in the blog, you have a 2011. So this is a seriously old one. But even then, it doesn't feel very dated when you look at the site. It's neatly organized, and it's a learner contributing her digital footprint, her work along the years. All right, this is an example of a young learner. Now let's look at this. Now this is a lovely reflective series of activities that we found. And what's nice about this is it's a very simple blog spot that is used, all right? And lovely series of activities on the left. The right is kept clean for all the notes. It is a little text heavy for those who don't like reading, but for someone like me who loves reading, this is like a beautiful, tons of information available to me. Okay, so this is an e-portfolio. Lovely put. Slightly older student who's a senior at university right now. and is putting forth all of the things that she's learning. One, it's a reflection of what all she's learning at a university level in terms of interest. It builds her projects, which at a later point, she's going to be submitting this site somewhere in her resume saying, take a look, this is the kind of work I've done. So all of it is there in terms of her resume. Her non-academia, her co-curricular world is also very visible. So it's a brilliant portfolio from that sense of what she's built across her university years to present herself to a world outside, which is very relevant even for 11th and 12th child. Okay. Now, given the fact that there's no question right now, but there's a potential question that comes, what if the children are too young to be building their own digital portfolios? Here's your answer. So as a teacher, you actually then compile for your classroom. Very, very simple activity, right? Again, it's a simple blogspot, right? So you want to put it down, name it, start writing about what your children are doing. And then on the right, can you look at them? They're not visible to us right now, fair enough. But you have profiles of the children which you can actually maintain, right? And your children's profiles are all there for parents to take a look of the different things that the kids are up to in school, after school, during activities. And small little videos also embedded over there, making it a very interesting way of keeping your parents connected to your classroom. It's a lovely way to share experiences. So when the children are very young, a teacher can take up the activity herself. Right? So these are a few of the exemplars that we took a look at, right? Okay. Now, when we move on to the next bit, what we're going to look at is, now let's start some work, all right? We've spent 15 minutes looking at the various elements, understanding little bits. First and foremost, why are we giving portfolio as homework or as a project or as a task? And what is the objective that we are looking at? We are only looking at one objective here, portfolio as an assessment, right? So we're very clear that this is a formative assessment activity for us. There's no other objective here, right? So objective setting, yes, clear. Now in that, you want to decide and share a format, right? And what do you mean by that format? Many times teachers have this huge regret that you leave a lot of space, right? Saying children can do this in any way that they want to, but you definitely want to make sure that there is a basic hygiene format in terms of what manner they will give it back to you in, simply because assessment will bear weightage across different sections. So simply decide on a format. Now here in this format, it can be very simple. We'll come to a couple of formats in a little while, but it's simple, right? You will have title and you will have activities and you will have reflection. What are the learning activities? All of those we'll take a look at. Do I need to share the assessment criteria with the learner while I'm giving the portfolio to be done? The answer is yes. All right. Why? It simply becomes easier for the learner to understand what he or she is going to be measured on. That is obvious. Two, I make an effort as a learner to make sure that I am being conscious of the quality of my work. So very simply put, we spoke about academic honesty. Would I train children to go onto a website and actually say, can I check for the authenticity of my work? And if I get a green tick there, then I'm very confident of the fact that I have the ability to write, do research, rewrite, do a proper edit, and put learning content out there, which is far more original. And that gives a certain sense of quality to the work that I am submitting, right? So it's good to share assessment criteria. Encouraging students to create a mind map. So yes, because otherwise it does tend to go all over the place. So if a mind map is in place, if you're working with the children, do this activity even before you actually let them start their work. So everyone has an idea of how they're going to be going about it. And most importantly, get them to note down, which is why your format is important. Get the children to note down at each stage what their learning experiences have been, how did it go, and what's the reflection on that learning experience. So what happened then comes in, did it work, did it not work, and what's the concern in the same, right? So on my right, on the bottom half, you'll actually see choose between digital or tangible. Here's the thing, right? It's a personal choice, one. Given the fact that children like doing a digital portfolio today, my recommendation and the skew of this discussion will also be slightly more digital than it will be tactile. Okay, now how old the student is and how complex the subject is. Now, there are many teachers who say, can I give a portfolio which is like simple and straightforward? My answer is yes, it can be done. Let's take, for example, something like languages. What can be an activity system in languages? Very, very simple. In languages, the activity system can be essays that are being written. All your writing work is a huge contribution. How did it work around? When you build that, you actually see growth of the child's writing, both writing in terms of vocabulary, writing in terms of writing style. So the growth becomes visible. So essays is a great place to do. This is for languages. If you're looking at single subjects, otherwise we'll come to even things like geography or history, which are more social science. And science obviously has a lot of scope, right? So moving on, let's take a look at how we're going to decide on the same. Right. Take a moment's pause here. Let's look at assessments in two parts. Let's focus on what's on the left right now. So assessments being process oriented. Agreed. And that's pretty much a key takeaway for us as well. In the portfolio, in an assessment portfolio, you tend to gather a lot of work that is done by the child, right? What does it need to demonstrate? Obviously, the learning curve. So if there's a learning curve that's definitely clear, then the assessment portfolio is a very, very great, what shall I say, evidence base for that. What was the work based on that learning target that we gave? And the fact that an assessment portfolio must include a self-reflection. So you will see the learning because it's demonstrated. You will have work which has been done, which enabled that learning to take place, and it will also tell you the self-reflection. Now, two, there's a growth portfolio. So growth portfolio is like the one we talked about. Now, it's like in research, when you talk about it's a longitudinal study. You can actually keep a growth portfolio is about writing as a skill, art as a skill. So when I started, what did it look like? And when I'm ending, what does it look like? It's a very progress related or a building competence related kind of a portfolio. So the question could be, when do I use which? That will really depend on what topic you want to do your portfolio on. So can I do this in grade 9 and 10? Of course you can, because again, I'll use language as a basic skill here because it's easier as an example. So has the writing improved? Has the ability to construct? Has the ability to concise? Has the ability to expand? All of these elements can be looked at, and you'll know where your children are moving. So it documents the list of achievements and the progression that a child obviously is showing you. So is it a good thing? It definitely is a good thing, right? On the right, we come to a product oriented, right? It's very simply put, many of your collaborative group projects will end up being a project portfolio activity, right? It's each one's individual work gets compiled, and then you have one mega project portfolio as well. This is one way of looking at it. But the thing is, there's a significant structure to it, right? There'll be a series. You won't be able to see which level what growth happened. It's very structured. This is the deliverable. This is what it needs to look like. Here, self-reflection may or may not be an easy task for a child to do, but anyways, you can obviously ask for it because it's nice to have a note there. Last one is a showcase portfolio. So for example, you've had a growth portfolio, you've had project portfolios. Now, a showcase portfolio is very simple, right? If you're a graphic artist, or you're someone whose work is constantly out there, lyricist, you write poems, then you tend to showcase the best students' work. So this can be something that a teacher takes up, or a student takes up and puts up his or her best work and content out there. So showcase portfolios are there. Which one is ours when we talk about assessments? If you're talking about assessments, the showcase portfolio will receive the lowest score. Highest obviously is going to be the growth portfolio and the assessment portfolio. Project portfolio is going to be an interim one that one can use. So from a knowing about the various types that are there, we can have an argument on that, about which one is good and which one is great. But these are the two that we would talk about. Okay. Now, let's talk about the parts. We started this a little while ago about the parts, right? I'm just keeping a conscious bit on the time, given the fact that we also have to do a showcasing of how we get there, right? So this is a basic part that we're giving them. We're saying a basic structure, plan for the same. You'll obviously have a title page and learning objectives that you want the child to get done. He or she will mention it. The content and the artifacts will vary a great deal from a child to child, obviously. So will the description of the learning activity, because their resources for doing the activity may or may not have been different. Reflection is one place where we know and can gauge a good amount of things that worked, and is also a good tool for the teacher to understand how clear instructions were. Bibliography is a given that we will do. This being the content side of it. Now, in each case, you will build an assessment criteria, right? So for all of these, so there's a generic one, which is presentation, obviously. Topic that was identified to be presented. How well were things organized, sequenced, built for better understanding, will show us the evidence of learning, right? The description that gets written. And how original is the reflection of the activity is another activity that we will see. But most important of all of this, the bibliography is going to give us how comprehensively children worked. They will mention it. A lot of it is going to be a Google search. A lot of it is going to be documents that got read, agreed. But a lot of it can also be stories, experiences that they've had, where it's very difficult for them to probably put it into a bibliography, but that will get captured in the description of the learning or in the reflection. So bibliography is just going to be very factual. The rest of it will not get lost, given the fact that you're asking them to note down their journey, right? So give the criteria in advance. That becomes imperative for you to get going on ensuring children know what they're going to be assessed on. That's an important factor. Let's not escape that activity system. All right. Now, let's move on to the next thing. Okay. This is a huge debate that always happens, right? When we give children an assessment, easy to say we can either do a checklist or we can do a rubrics. A checklist is when it's very structured. Okay, let's evaluate what we mean by this. It's very structured. You're given a specific task to be done. There was a structure to it. It can easily be binary. Was it done? Yes, no is a possibility. And all of that is good to go. Let's look at checklist from another perspective. Let's say you are, okay, let's say you did both. You did an activity where the projects were done in a physical manner. There's pen, paper, artwork, everything done, and those got graded. But you wanted to show children how they can also make a digital version of it, and you teach them the steps of the same. So that activity then was creating a digital portfolio, can also be a checklist. But I'm not a checklist fan at all. Okay, I firmly believe that if you're going to give them measures on how they will be assessed, someone's going to know and argue for a 3 versus a 4 or a 4 versus a 5 is a reality for all of us teachers. A rubrics is a better way to do this. They also have access to the rubrics, right? They also know that they're going to be assessed on this. They take responsibility. It's a great way to build responsibility. The use of rubrics is one, positive, two, very, very clear, and it can be a very simple to read, simple to use kind of a tool. And we keep it simple ourselves. So if you look at the example over here, it's also, one has made an effort to see, okay, how visually it can be fun. All right. So that's another simple way that one can do this. We'll get into making a rubrics in like a minute. All right, here we go. If we look at, okay, let's break this down into two sides. You've got your X and Y, all right? Does not meet expectations, partially meets and exceeds. So this is a 4 on this side and a 5 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 on this side. And therefore we know this is the score that we can possibly get. Now, if we were to look at what we discussed a little while ago, we will arrive at evidence of learning. Evidence of learning is what we said, right? How do you know where this was taken up from? What was the journey? You'll also look at reflection. You'll also look at presentation. Let's take 3 of these. Sources is obviously on top, which is experiences plus the bibliography. So in each, we've tried to organize that. How can we make it more creative? Whether there's a rubric tool that we can use, yes, we can. Whether there is, does it have to be very, very wordy for people like me who are descriptive? Yes. For a younger class that can do it on its own, we can probably reduce this and have more visual smileys and otherwise. Now, room for judgment. Is mine well organized? Okay, let's take the last one. Let's take presentation because it's everybody's area. Presentation, what is the definition of presentation? Completeness and quality of the portfolio presentation. Perfect. So first is complete, not complete. Marks start from there. Quality is always debatable, so that's been expanded obviously a great bit. When we look at does not meet, it's very clear, right? The rules or the instructions have not been followed. So completeness where rules have not been followed is obviously a huge disqualifier, right? Written, visual, and digital presentation does not meet post-secondary standards. Okay, agreed. Now I come to when I partially meet. Let's look at the variance in the language. Most of the expected elements are included, and visual quality does not meet the secondary. So one met, one did not. Okay, great. So if that's the case, we've kept it low. Portfolio is well organized with all critical elements included, and quality of written and visual is competent. So it did not exceed, it met all standards is when you're saying meet expectations. And to get all of us included, okay, to understand that meets expectation is actually a great score. To get children started is for them to first meet expectations is a great score. And that's how you proceed to the next level. Everybody expecting exceeds expectation. Then it's like saying that learning is well documented with writing and production skills that exceeds that of all senior school students or college students. That can get, there's no further growth in that. Not that you need to undermine the skill that someone's actually put in, but it's not an everybody that achieves and exceeds expectation in all of the parameters. In one or yes, it's a high possibility. So someone's artistic skills may be better, someone's sources or research skills may be better, someone's reflection styles may be better. So it's a fantastic way to get children to accept that this is the route, right? So when looking at rubrics or when looking at criteria, we would prefer to go in for a rubric which is common to that particular activity system, right? So this is one. These are the host of references that we looked at while we were preparing for this. Now, given the fact that those are the resources we looked at, let's also understand, we looked at the rubrics makers as well, right? So we're going to talk about two. Here's where Gunjan stepping in to talk about the portfolios first, and then we'll come to the rubrics. Gunjan, shall we do Wix?
Yes, I just take you to a website called Ruby Star.
Okay, doing rubrics first? Okay, great.
Let us just, I'll just type Ruby Star rubrics.
Yeah, it's come.
Yeah. So you can create many new rubrics with Rubik Star, but there are some basic, framework available. So since we were talking about presentation, let's go on to presentation, oral presentation. So it will ask you for some basic information. You can just put something in your name and what you want to put. Otherwise, what is the name of the, you can leave this right now. So this is what makes it interesting. So these are the already, the grid is given to you. You can just start, putting, for example, your category is reflection. You just keep putting things here and then you can just add it here. So this is how a rubric, you can create and edit rubrics here. They also have already ready-made rubrics. If you see, I've gone to find a rubric, I can go to presentation and just search. So they will, sorry, my spelling was wrong, I think. So somehow there are no rubrics for presentation. I'm surprised. Let's see maths.
Let's try, let's try subject.
Yeah, something has come. Nothing. I'm surprised.
That's okay.
So I think there is a problem with the site
There's
currently.
a problem in the
Otherwise,
slide. So let's do weeks first, and then we'll come back to this. By the time I'll do that, I'll check it out.
So usually you find rubrics, you just have to search and there are some
Yeah,
now.
see, there's maths. There's maths.
There's
Third grade maths. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, 10th grade maths is good.
So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Likert scale, which is exceed, meet, approach. So there's politeness, promptness, professionalism, preparedness, problem solving. And somebody has made it for for us, and we can use it if we want.
Yes, given the fact that this is about classroom participation and professionalism, it's a very specific, and it's not about any other activity of measuring only that. So this is a true presentation measurement.
So there are many rubrics are available. You can even print it and you use it yourself or create one.
One on your own, yeah.
One on your own.
Also, our only recommendation at any point of time is whenever you're creating one, do a 4x5, which is a 20 score. That's the cleanest, simplest matrix to use always. So that's one thing that we really recommend.
So let's see reading if something comes up.
Yes. But this is not reading that's come up. It's this thing. It's math.
Yeah, it's the same, the old one.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So just come down. There is one for
third grade math.
No. Come down further. Okay, no, it's N. All right, doesn't matter. So let's look at the other ones. Let's do rubrics, and we'll come back to rubrics. I'll just find the other page.
So this is a website called Wix where you can actually make online portfolios. This portfolio has been made by a student of ours, DCDD participant. Her name is Anju. If you see, this is her about page. So she's written something, about herself, that she's a learning designer, she's a multimodal trainer, and her credentials, her degrees, and whatever. Then, if you see the more tab, there is sessions and workshops, so you can actually book some sessions with her. She's given a YouTube link of one of the sessions which she did online. She is very passionate about mindfulness, so there is a page on mindfulness, if you can see. Then her work. So this is some of the work. You can go to the drive and see some lesson plans, some some basic videos. And I think she has some lots and lots of Hindi. She's a Hindi teacher, so she's lots of Hindi resources there. She has a page where you can book a lesson with her. There are some packages which she offers, and she's also a blog writer, and she also is a poet, so some poetry also. So this is done on Wix, and it's very simple. I'll just take you to wix.com. It's completely free of charge. What you need to do is just go there and log in and start using a template to build your portfolio. So because I've already logged in, see there is my site. I can always go ahead and say create a new site. And it will ask me, what kind of thing you want to create. So for example, I want to create a portfolio. So then it's telling me what kind of portfolio you want.
General, yeah.
So let me just select creative, because we all love to be creative. So it's asking me to name my website. So let's, name it Gunjan, or maybe OS _ test portfolio, and go to next. Now it will give you beautiful templates to choose. But before that, it will tell you what all do you want in your website. So do you want a chat version? Do you want forms so that people can just come and, for example, she had said, no, book a course with me. So for that, she had used forms. Do you want, obviously I'm a teacher, I'm not interested in a store. Yes, I want to add my videos there. And obviously this is a portfolio. And there are many, many more things, but currently let's just stick to a few of them. That's it. It's it. Now I will move to next. So now it is setting up my website, and now I need to go to my dashboard, or I can begin with a template which it was offering me earlier. It will take some time to load. So this is your website portfolio, and then you can actually go ahead and customize your site. You can start updating. So this is my basic dashboard. Just a second. I want to, because you are beginners, I would like you to choose a template first, right? So we go to begin with a template. So you can choose, there's so many available, you can choose any of the templates. So just because this is looking nice and bright, I have chosen this. And then it works like any other, a Google slide or a Canva or anything. You can just go to the element, change it, and just, publish it, and it's good to go. I just show how it looks, and then, we can go back to the presentation. It will take some time.
It will take a moment, but it's worth a
Yeah.
look, and then you know the kind of pages and how you can rename your pages, add a page. So if a child wants to do this for multiple subjects and has one single portfolio, can actually have pages for each of that, or name them by the projects that he or she has done. These are all possibilities. So a little about them, a little about what they do, and of course, each page can do a separate representation.
Yeah. So it started.
Yeah.
So it's showing you, you can add elements, you can add sections. So let's go to pages. So currently it has 3 pages. If you see portfolio, collection pages, project pages, you can always go ahead and rename the page. So you can say this is my home page. So as you said, if it's a student, you can go and name it as, actually go and call it, English, Hindi, like that. You can go to. So see, my portfolio page is now home page. You can add elements. You can add sections. You can add more pages if you want. So that options is there. That this is the site menu. So you cannot work on any page just by clicking it. You need to move from here. So currently it has home page, info page, and Instagram. I can go and rename this page if I want. I can copy, duplicate this page. So if I go to this page, this is how I go. I click on Instagram and reach that page. From here, currently, because it's in the editing page, you cannot use these to navigate as of now. You can only use these to navigate. That is some basics. Otherwise, then it works like anything like Canva. You go here and you can just keep, change, edit here. You can add a element. You can add, if you see, you can add a picture. You can add a movie. So there's so many things you can do.
You can do
Right
links.
now, we'll not get into the details of it. We'll take another session.
That we'll do a separate time, but yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. So
yeah.
in terms of going and building it is not so complicated is the only message that we wanted to put forth. It's a free software. It's a simple software, I think, is the greater part of it, and it has a fair amount of flexibility. So if you have to do 5 subjects also, it's a possibility, or you just decide to do this is Sindhu in terms of English, and then there can be another one for Sindhu in terms of artwork. It can be separate as well, depending on what you would want to showcase, or it could be by the teacher's name. So, and multiple sets of permutations and combinations. But fact of the matter being, it's there. Now, coming back. Now, each of those pages, if you want to go back and you want to looking at us as a growth portfolio, very, very easily, each of those pages then becomes a year page, where you go ahead and put down whatever happened during that year in smaller pieces. Does it allow you to have a link to a Google Drive? Yes, it does. It allows you to actually place it there in open-ended Google Drive where somebody can actually go and see further information, because each of the site activities will allow you a limited bit. So it's also about a writing skill that gets developed, and which is a very important piece. You will be seeing someone's brevity skills also, being put up over there. Play of colors and activities will have small, role to play, but the actual work and reflections can be a top to bottom, very smooth display of work. So this is the important part that we wanted to cover. Yes.
Even if you're not using Wix, you don't want to Wix, you find it too complicated. Nothing is stopping you. You can use a simple tool like Canva or Google Slides to do it. Lot of you are using Flipgrid. So Flipgrid is being used for portfolios. I'm talking about digital currently. And then there is a beautiful site called Book Creator, which allows you to create free books. So typical, instead of if a file that student puts its work, you can use Book Creator. In fact, you can have, in Flipgrid, you can send different links to different students so that, it's already organized for you. So it's just your creativity, which, you can use any tool at the end of the day.
So coming back now to how you're going to wrap it up. Okay, now it's very easy for us to say, okay, brilliant. You need to have a structure. You will have a structure. Children will follow that structure to a large degree. Now, assessing this, okay, is a serious activity. So when you're getting into the assessment piece of it, up till now, what we've seen is the building piece of it, right? When you plan for, all right, in your head also, many a time, it is a KWLH series in your mind that you're actually building, right? How much did the child know? What is the learning experience? How did he go about doing it? All of those questions will have to be answered in more ways than one, right? It's like bringing things into focus, right? What did you know to where do you want to, how much does the child know and where do you want to take him to? Now, steps that you have taken is another simple, straightforward activity that you want to gauge. Now, how do you do this? So evidence is important. So documenting that evidence is also important. And documentation doesn't mean it has to be a great write-up, but even bullet points of things that I learned along the way is brilliant. But this evidence, how do you genuinely know how it happened, how much the child actually did? So we've been asked this many a time. Is a student-led conference the only way to kind of do this? Sure, it's a brilliant way to do it. You could turn it around and give your children a slightly greater experience also in conducting a proper Viva, right? A Viva course is also a lovely way. So while there is a student-led presentation as a lovely way to do it, a more one-on-one interaction can be as a separate interaction between the learner and the teacher can also be a proper Viva, which is a combination then. Questions are being asked, answers are being received, a little probing can happen. You can bring focus to exactly where you think this learner needed a little more focus. You can bring it to that position and not just, it's not a one-way activity system. So this is one. Another one can be a very nice, a very beautiful detailed interview. Interviews are also a lovely way to have an action system, so activity system where an assessment is very natural, where you're just sitting and having a conversation and it's one question leading to another, which is not like Viva where it's a planned series of questions which you will have, but a simple detailed interview or a discussion that you can have. These elements enable you to do a proper assessment, as you would want to call it. Ultimately, you meant it as an assessment, right? So how are you going to do that learning journey? It is not just a one-time, has it been done checklist. It's not just one time, you go through the rubrics and see if everything has been done. There's also a next step after that, which is a proper Viva or a proper student-led conference or a discussion that dives much deeper into the learning experience. So then again, many a question that we're trying to answer because we've already received discussion points on this. Many teachers have this question: what do we put forth as what topic do we choose to give for a portfolio? And I think our standard answer has been this: look at topics that are relevant to an immediate future learning also, or a far future learning also. So if you're a teacher in grade 5 and grade 6, look at those topics that have a relevance right up the grade levels going up to grade 10 or even further. Choose those, because those fundamental concepts make a big difference, whether it's science, whether it's social sciences or languages. Mathematics is still lovelier because you actually get to do a physical project also in math, whereas, and that also is a brilliant digital conversion, by the way. So there are enough activities where you build something and you do scales and measurements and have a costing arrived to it. You can actually do that whole activity. But having said that, assessments, the wisdom and choices, you want those fundamentals to be concreted very, very early on. Want to dispel any kind of errors going forward. Those are the kind of topics we recommend that you choose as portfolio as an assessment. Okay, this is for the assessment piece of it. Growth portfolios are very, very important. Your child is going to be there. So as a hygiene factor in a school, so we take it up right from, say, grade 1 or 2, where the teacher's building it, but take it on further and let the child have a portfolio right from there to the time the child is exiting school. The child will take it on after some time. It doesn't have to be the teacher all the way. So those are the lovely growth portfolios. It's a fantastic reflective activity. I'm sure many of you would have loved to have things which you kind of thought of and did in school, which today you find it hard to remember naturally. But it's a brilliant way to have growth portfolios there. They are brilliant learners who will want to see what they've done across the years. Huge sense of achievement, right? So having said that, that's the last part of what we were going to talk about. Rubrics is the one part that we were going to show you, and somehow the search isn't working right now. For some reason, it's not enabling us. However, having said that, we come back to rubrics. What we would recommend in a rubrics, like we said, when we do the 4x5 matrix, the reason that it is a 4x5 matrix is also many a time it's a 20-mark activity. It's easy to scale down from there. 1, 2, we don't want a 5-point scale at any point of time. It becomes very difficult, both for yourself and otherwise. 3, descriptors to have distinctions is very simple. It is pretty much running on not at all, partially, most have been met, and definitely have exceeded and gone beyond. Exceeded and gone beyond is a rare feature which many children achieve, in not all, but in many sometimes of the specifics that have been outlined. Apart from Ruby Star, Gunjan, we had another one that we wanted to showcase with them, right?
Recently, we did a workshop with school where we asked them to, assess each other. So this was a peer assessment rubric. I'll share with you. So again, it's not for portfolios, but we are talking about rubrics, so I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Just
so we took a session on blended learning strategies.
Yeah.
So see, if you see, this is clearly a 4-point rubric where very, very clear points are there from objectives, underused strategies, what are the learning resources being used, flow and structure. I think a lot of this is tweakable in a portfolio. Then what are the assessment strategies used by the team? So here in your case, it will be what were the strategies used to learn, that topic. Usability, so can other people use your project or your knowledge, and team skills, because that was a team project.
Yeah, it was a team project.
So in case your portfolio is, a project portfolio where a team is working here. And if you see, each team has to grade the other teams. So that is why the topic, grade and subject, and, also comments, that's very important. What you like, what you didn't like, and how could they have been better.
Pretty much that's the bit on the rubric creation. Rubric creation in itself will take a little time to do if you were doing it, and it's best done with a much smaller group, and because it has to be highly interactive. But that's a suggestion that we leave you with. When you make an attempt, if you feel like doing this and sending it to us, so Prachi, Rutvik, all of you, if you feel like, and Manisha, of course, do share it with us. Happy to give you feedback on whatever you've created as far as the rubrics is concerned. Meanwhile, what we recommend is please explore the digital portfolio tools, because that exploration is what's going to take a little time. And getting your students to do this a little by little every day is the other activity system. So if a child is sitting on it throughout, there's a sense of frustration because it doesn't happen at one go. It takes a little time. Systems take a little time. And the first page is probably going to take the longest. So having matter ready for developing that digital portfolio is equally important. So a little bit of planning from your end, even for that piece, when you get them to do the activity. A little hand holding. So please take this up in small groups when you're sitting with them. Yes, computer rooms or even an online Zoom actually makes more sense for you to be actively doing so. And that's it. Anything else that we've missed out, Gunjan? We have 5 minutes to take questions is where I was keeping it.
Yeah, so we'll take questions now. So I've been on YouTube. There are some people watching you, but right now there are no questions.
There are no questions, right? Okay, perfect. All right. Great.